Do modern day Italians look like their Roman ancestors? And I promise you, after you see it, you won't be able to look at Italians the same way again. Imagine Julius Caesar and Michelangelo walk into a modern day bar in Rome. No, this isn't the funniest Italian joke you've ever heard, but actually, thought exercise. Do they blend in with the modern locals or do they stick out like sore thumbs? Hi, I'm Danielle Romero, and thank you for joining me again today on my channel, where we have been delving into questions of identity and ancestry and genealogy. Someone sent me a really wild, collage of photos. I think it's a meme, like a history meme that's been going around, and I want to share it with you. This is the reason why I'm making this video. I'm going to show it to you at the end of this video, so please stick around so you do not miss this insane collage. But we need to talk first about whether or not modern day Italians look like historic Italians, or more specifically, do modern day Italians look like their Roman ancestors? Now, if you've seen any sculptures or pictures of Julius Caesar, you know, he has like a very serious gaze. He's got the aquiline nose, but you can't tell really what he looks like. There was only one ancient text that described some of his physical features. And in particular, it said that Julius Caesar's eyes were so dark that the area around the pupils was basically the same color as the iris. Would Caesar blend in at a Roman bar? Well, we're going to find out. So we're going to journey through time today, looking at the faces of Italy. Not Italian Americans, but Italians. Now, my family, part of my lineage is Southern Italian, but I'm an American, and it's really fascinating to me about the stereotypes about how Italians look and how we perceive ourselves. I was talking with a professor in Rome a couple weeks ago. I'm really hoping to share that video with you soon. But Professor Luca was telling me that in his research, he's found that Northern Italians immigrated to places like Argentina, while Southern Italians and Sicilians emigrated to places like the United States. So the American perception of what is Italian is really a Southern Italian look. And that has kind of skewed the stereotypes, I think. So we're going to dig deep into the faces that have shaped Italy, both historic and modern, and challenge our perception of what it means to be an Italian. So with the celebrated Roman statesman, Cato the Elder, with his blue eyes and red hair, stand out in modern day Rome. So the first thing we have to acknowledge is that genes flow like a river through time, always moving, blending, even diverging. And what is now Italy has been at the crossroads of this blending for millennia. From the Greeks to the Romans to the Goths to the Normans to the Arabs and many others, they have crossed over this peninsula and changed the genetic landscape. So expecting a one-to-one correspondence between how the ancient Romans looked and today's modern Italians might be misunderstanding genetics a little bit. Now, Italy itself, though, she's a land of contrasts, not just in landscape, but in people. So like I was telling you before, my visual of what an Italian looks like is heavily influenced by the fact that Italian Americans skew Southern Italian. But Northern Italy has been touched by Alpine influences and has seen more intermingling with Central European populations, and the South was closer to Greek and African influences, to name just a few. And so when we're talking about historic Romans, which Romans are we referring to? Romans from the time of the Republic, the early empire, the late empire, when Rome stretched all the way from North Africa to Britain. So imagine walking into the crowded piazza in Rome today with its mingling of locals and tourists speaking their different dialects and languages. And now close your eyes and imagine that you are going back in time to the ancient Roman Forum. When you open your eyes, how different would the faces be? Now, while marble busts of wealthy Romans do look surprisingly familiar, portraits from places like Pompeii have a totally different look. And what remains from the Roman era are statues and mosaics and written accounts that do provide snapshots of an incredibly diverse group of people. Artistic depictions often do show a range of hair color, eye color, and skin tones. And ancient Rome was a melting pot, much like the United States. especially during the time of the Roman Empire's greatest reach. Now, we can't forget also that being Roman was as much of an idea as a look, maybe even more so. Roman citizenship and identity extended to people across the empire, irrespective of their appearance. Roman became a civic identity more than an ethnic one, but still stereotypes about Italians exist. What are the 2 or 3 most common physical stereotypes about how Italians look? Well, one, I would say for sure, is the olive skin. I saw somebody in a comment a couple weeks ago complaining about that term and saying, well, olives are black and green. It's like, we're not talking about olives, we're talking about olive oil, which is a beautiful golden color. But we still have to remember that in the north, the lighter tones reveal the impact of Germanic tribes that came through, and the south carries, darker shades of Arabic and Italian legacy, but all are Italian. Now, probably the most common stereotype about Italians is the Roman nose. I don't think that I have one. I was looking at pictures of my family on my dad's side too, and I don't see it. So I don't know, maybe Southern Italians don't really have that kind of a nose. But full disclosure, I'm not full Italian, so that could be part of it. But for the Italians, it wasn't just a physical trait. It was a symbol in many ways. In fact, the term aquiline, like the aquiline nose, derives from the Latin word aquilinus, which means eagle-like, which possibly signified a Roman virtue of strength and nobility to the bearer of those noses. And you definitely see instances of both of those historic images in Italians, but also the inverse. You see people with other totally different kinds of noses. And as an aside, when I was researching, I saw George Washington is considered to have a Roman nose. And also, there are specific Native American tribes that are from North America, and they have noses that look exactly like this. And some chiefs were actually renamed to reflect that noble nose that they have. So fast forward to today. If Italy is this churning pot of genetic and cultural influence, how do we define what an Italian looks like? If it's not olive skin, and it's not Roman noses or passionate hand gestures, what is it? Let's get to that incredible montage that I was talking about earlier. And I promise you, after you see it, you won't be able to look at Italians the same way again. So someone sent to me, so I can't vouch for it, but I would love your thoughts on it. So you have, I actually have 2 of them, because after I got the first one, I wanted to kind of dig in and look and see, what is this thing? It's these incredible side-by-sides of historic Romans or historic Italians next to modern Italians. And it's pretty crazy how similar some of these faces look. I think the resemblance is so uncanny for some of them that you wonder if these are doppelgangers. That even though cultures evolve and fashions change and civilizations rise and fall, some things remain eerily constant. So this first one of Titus and Al Capone, I think it's not like a dead ringer, but I can definitely see it. But when you take a step back and you're looking at, the next one of Agrippa, of Augustus, or Titus, I feel like you definitely see a similar face. But the other thing that is striking to me is that even though the historic Italian faces resemble the modern Italian faces, they don't resemble each other. And what I mean by that is, even though there is some kind of consistency, it's also a consistency in diversity. And you can see that there is not one Italian face. These faces look pretty different, but at the same time, they're still showing up and showing up and showing up over the centuries, which is fascinating. And, judging from surviving sculptures and busts, I don't think ancient Romans would have looked out of place walking around modern day Rome. And I think this is a striking reminder that our identity is not something that we forge anew with each generation. You don't just suddenly show up ex nihilo looking like you do for no rhyme or reason, but that our identities are a really intimate connection to the people that came before us. And sometimes we may not even realize who we resemble, and we may never know. So perhaps it's safe to say that while modern Italians are not replicas of their ancestors, the echoes of the past are hard to ignore. And I think it's true that while there can be an Italian look, it's also true that a bunch of Italians don't look like that. They were diverse then, they're diverse now. And so I think if Julius Caesar walked into a bar in Rome, I don't think you would know this.